And besides improving the user experience, we want to achieve a certain level of subscription for premium products and also generate leads for companies to know very well what's being asked in the market, which are topics of interest to focus their marketing in that topic. And to try to close off, what's our dream? Our dream is for millions of farmers and technicians to have better results being part of Agrocos by being part of Agroconsultas, and for Agroconsultas to be the technical assistant platform and agro training more widely used in the world. So, on behalf of Agroconsultas, thank you very much, and I do apologize for the extra minutes. Thank you, Ramiro, for this explanation and what telling us what Agroconsultas is about. Now I want to give the floor to Robinson Lopez from Peru, and he is the CEO and founder of Agro. So, Robinson, you have the use of the floor. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you please help me with the presentation?
AGROS. Sí, Agroconsultas. Dale. Bueno,
Very well then, and to take advantage of time, I want to thank the ICA team first for this incredible event, and well received. It's been highly productive to get to know all these entrepreneurs. That it makes you feel that you're not alone or crazy, because I'm sure there's some that are crazier. So I will start briefly sharing my story. My name is Robinson Lopez. I am one of the founders of AGROS, and I want to share how we started. That is, that beautiful plump baby is me over 20 years ago with my grandmother. She was a family farmer, rice farmer in the northern part of Peru. And because of things of life, we have roots in the field, so different generations could go to university. And I got involved in precision agriculture. And then we had the life cycle. I was the only person related to the field in my family. I had to go back to the land, to the field. And it's interesting. Over 20 years, this is what it looked like. This is what the farm, in over 20 years, the field had not changed almost nothing. Technology, life quality of people in farming remained the same. And this generated a life change for us. We decided to basically liquidate my previous partners, and I opened AGROS. But we wanted to first understand how big was the problem we wanted to resolve. And after a year living with farmers, even sleeping in the field, we learned that it was a huge problem. Over 60% of the poverty was concentrated in rural areas. Likewise, in Latin America, over 70%, because of an ICA study, the rural area did not have internet access. The Peru, Venezuela, Bolivia, iconic countries with the absence of digital infrastructure for agriculture, and over 80% of the farmers were linked to their farming activities in an informal way. This means seeds, informal seeds, from one seller to another, loans, informal loans, buyers, so on and so forth. So we then ask, what's the root of this problem? So our thesis, our antagonist or the villain in our, it came from this word we found the most after speaking with many farmers, is that they would say, they don't believe in me. So we call this antagonist in the movie tax to lack of trust, because we realized that producers, when they couldn't show who they were their production capacity they had, the more difficulty they had to show who they were. Everything was more expensive and they had to sell cheaper. So that was the tax to the non-trust. For that reason, we decided to change this reality, saying, where's the trust of the producer? And we realized we can somehow build that trust because the farmer information was there. The problem is that information of trust of the farmer was fragmented in the notebook of the supplier who would say how much was sold, or in the cooperative saying how much he had produced, or in the financial entity who said they were good payers. So all of that trust was fragmented. So we said, let's break away with these silos and one place where the farmer can show their story and trust.
That is why we say sovereign and digital identity for farmers, not only to show their information, but to have control on it. As we have learned in these days in the week of the digital agriculture, we have seen that the digital transformation is a process, and we define it so as a process where we needed to make the farmer visible, reliable, and connected to a digital economy. We realized that those were the three phases that we needed to build to transform digitalization of farming. This way, what we built was a way for the farmer to be able to create a digital identity without the need of internet by using their voice. We use an app that uses technical systems, IBR, ITR, or voice, where they use the voice as a password to join the digital user to be able to navigate on a digital system. Because we needed to build a digital infrastructure for the non-digital. First step, how to make the farmer visible. So digitally first, and that was the first step to create this digital identity that was supported in blockchain for him to have control on his information, but without the need of internet. First step. Then we said, okay, the farmer is already digital, so we need to help the ecosystem to interact with this farmer, which is a digital farmer now. So this way we created different types of tools, allowing the organizations to interact with him. We developed a tool allowing the cooperatives, input, vendors, NGOs, and local governments to have a directory of farmers, to know with whom they were, where they were located, so to interact with the digital identity of the farmer, to know what kind of farmer they were working with. Likewise, today we created tools for them to digitalize the information of farmers with the different activities. The same way with the communication hub, where the farmer is already digitalized. He has a digital identity. The pandemic proved that without going to the field, he needed to collection tasks, different tasks. So we started using digital identity for organizations start interacting with the farmer as a CRM, but for organizations working with small farmers. And finally, what for the information they generate can go into blockchain certificates that are stored in this big resume of farmer, this portfolio of information on a decentralized place where the farmer with his voice can control when he or she decides to do so. These tools pool, why to build all this, why to buy this fight. Well, let me show you what we have been building. This is the way we view the field as an information ecosystem. We believe that the farmer interacts with many organizations. If all of them are part of a single ecosystem, a farmer may have a certificate of the training received, a certificate of the sale of the input received, a certificate of the price of the coffee he or she received, and all this information will allow him to credit his quality as a producer. What for? We said visibility, credibility, and connection. Now we're talking about credibility. Regarding connection, we have created the capacity for a farmer with all this information stored can connect to different services, so acting as a service hub. Nowadays, a farmer with digital identity can have access to technical assistance services, funding, marketing. We have made a first pilot with telemedicine services, and now we're working for him or her to connect to irrigation systems and input access. Because we realized that the farmer, as such, is attractive. The problem, the issue is that it's like any one of us that want to do business with somebody, we do not know. The lack of confidence generates these barriers. So the idea is to break this barrier to connect the rural or family farmer with the digital economy in the world. This is our statement. But I also want to tell you how we have validated this and how this has become possible. We started working with growers in the forest area in Peru, and farmers were able to get 100% digital loan according to the hub, indicating the loan he needed, using their voice as passwords to identify that they were the ones asking for a loan and to receive through the blockchain wallet the credit. Finally, farmers for more than 55 years, for the first time, receive a formal loan in their lives. This is our concept of digital inclusion that goes right away to economic inclusion. There was a video with witness, but because of technical issues, so we're not going to be able to show it to you. Okay. To make this sustainable, we develop a software as a service model. So we give the organizations, NGOs, input providers, and Netafin to sell this to their sellers at the field level to talk to digital identity of the farmer, and we charge for different fees. We never charge the farmer. We believe identity is a right, not a service. So this way we have kept the business model with the vision we have. We have also been working with governmental organizations. We have bundled this service as licenses for the governments to have on their digital structure to manage the tools I mentioned to you. And finally, the truth is that we are not so excited to know that we are sort of different to some competitors. We just discussed if there were more on this side, the non-digitals and decentralized ones, we will be happier. But we realized that this different approach to have a solution for non-digital users was what makes us different. I hope we're not going to be the only ones for a while. We believe that there's room for more people. We need more hands to solve this big issue. The team that made all this possible, I'm the team nerd, the researcher. My team, my partner, is the one that is at the field level, and he has his roots story in a great team. Everybody has a story with the field, and they accept the commitment to solve this big issue. I hope they have done this with the right people, but we're going there. And these are the organizations that have trusted us this time. We are not so alone. There are multilateral companies, startups, governmental organizations. MIT is one of the first organizations that trust us 2 years and a half ago with a fund of $250,000 to create the first road of what Agro is nowadays. So much more have intervened in the history. This is what I wanted to share with you and to invite you to build all together the digital ecosystem on farming, because here we are 15 stubborn people that could make this a reality. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Robinson.
Thank you, Robinson from AGROS, and thanks, Ramiro from Agroconsultas. Now we would like to open a short space of exchanges. If you have questions, both for Ramiro and Robinson, go ahead. First of all, I would like to congratulate both of you. The question is for Ramiro, but great presentation, and Robinson Development and his team. I have noted here this. I also want to congratulate Ramiro and Agroconsultas team, because as Argentinian, I was user, and not only for growers, but technical guys get trained with Agroconsultants. I would like to ask this because it interested me a lot. What do you consider as digital technical assistance? I believe this has an impact in my story. So with that, you increase 4% of the yield. So what is the digital technical assistance concept is? Thanks, Mauricio. First of all, I don't know why you were user and you're not anymore. I would like you to, I would like to keep you as a user. I mention farmers because this is in the region, right? In Argentina, as Marisa says, more than 50% of our users are colleagues of us, agronomists, technical guys. We are not competitors, we are partners. With regard to your question, digital technical assistant is transferring knowledge on a digital manner from an expert or a knowledge basis to the end user. What the 4% was considered as digital technical assistance. You could read it if I'm wrong, and what I say is to get to reach growers with text messages. So how having said technical information through SMS improved or increases the performance. This is the tool that they use to measure that activity. We may have something similar. That is why we extrapolate that to our tool. Our tool is not SMS for now, but maybe SMS after I talk to Robinson, I don't know. But it is text, or as Nico said yesterday, binary numbers that travel from one place to another one, trying to improve the knowledge where this knowledge is needed. Thanks. We have a room for another question. Well, I congratulate you. I really like the two presentations. I have a question and a request to ICA people with this question. The two of you, so Ramiro a little bit more than Robinson, but you talk about technical assistance. You talked about technical assistance, and technical assistance is understood as, well, there is a situation where the responsibility about this advisory, even if we can provide two, I'm asking you, what strategy are you thinking about to manage these kind of things first? And number two, to ICA, if there is any kind of policy or idea on policy, because we saw that the way to technical assistance goes hand in hand with the digital and the decentralization of all that. On our side, is self-managed. The expert knows the limitations of the tool and knows to what extent she can give an answer or not. Normally, there are answers that are better than others. There are experts that are willing to give some recommendations, like a recipe mentioning doses and products, but respecting what the label says. And there are others that are much more conservative. But on the side of Agroconsultas, we do not have any concrete action to prevent to where they want to go with the answer. Okay. In our case, since the principle that we use is digital identity, and there is an interesting effect that appears. We explain the farmers and the organizations that each certificate issued, each statement issued in the ecosystem gives a footprint of who issues it and to whom. So this organic reputation principle that was generated as Airbnb, where there is something was a good host or not, I was a good visitor, I was not. So we cannot ensure that the farmer will use a product as it says. If an organization says, I buy this crop to this farmer, and a financial entity says, I loan for this crop, it's more possible that the farmer really has this crop. So the aim is to find an organic reputation through time. Because in practice, the crowdsourcing has been proven this last years that it is a long-term trust tool. So it is a trust ecosystem. The only way is to ensure that the first ones are more or less good, and through time, the system remains stable. So we're going on this line. Okay, thank you. And your question, Leonardo, we have spaces in the agenda where we will answer your question. But now, for now, we do not have more spaces for that. Thanks, AGROS and Agroconsultas, for showing us your solutions. Now, let's move to a space, to a panel that will be facilitated by Hugo Echevarria, Manager of Hemispheric Program of Bioeconomics and Productive Development of ICA. Hugo, floor is yours. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you to the organizers for the invitation. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you. It is valuable for us to learn. This is for us a learning space. As Carlos said, now we're going to have a panel, a 45 minutes panel. 45 minutes are going to be short because the discussion, I'm sure the discussion is going to be quite interesting. The title is what is the role of the Research, Development and Innovation Institutes in the process of the farming digital transformation. There are three questions that guide the discussion. The first question is how the appearance and development of all these digital technologies have reconfigure all the scenario of technologies, but because of the stakeholders with us here, we would like to talk about the role. What is the role each one of them considers? What is the role of public systems, science, technology, and innovation in this process of digital transformation for farming? What role can play and can play the public systems of science, technology, and innovation? We have with us Carla Giovanna do Nascimento. Carla is right there. Nice to see you, Carla. It is a joint head of the Ambrapa Research Center. We have as well Prospero Aguilar. I don't see him. Where are you? Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Prospero Aguirre, pleasure. How are you? Head of Technical Cooperation of Lydia and representative of Agro. And Stephen Capes, president of Prosinorte and associate administrator of programs in production, general biologic science from USDA and Agricultural Research Service, and Jose Bonica, chair of Uruguay Line of Process. Thanks for, it is a pleasure to have you with us. Let's begin with a presentation by Carla Joana do Nascimento, joint head of the Ambrapa Research Center, and then we will have a discussion panel. Carla, floor is yours. Thank you. I will speak in Portuguese. You will have the translation, so you have translation, right? Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carla Bacale. Currently, I am the Deputy Head of Research and Development of Ambrapa Digital Agriculture. And it is a pleasure for me to be with you today talking about Ambrapa and the digital agriculture. For those who do not know Ambrapa, it is a Brazilian company of agricultural research. It was founded in 1973, the largest company of research in Brazil. We are more than 8,000 employees nowadays and more than 2,238 researchers with PhDs. And develop their research in their units, and they are distributed around the country. We are 43 research and development centers, thematic centers with specific topics. For example, adaptation to the soils, central research and products such as rice, bean, corn, soya, and a research center with what we call eco-regional center that works with biomass in the Amazonia. Our mission is to create research, development, and innovation solutions to ensure sustainability of agriculture and for the benefit of society. We have shares from international cooperation. We have actions from international cooperation with North America, Europe, and Asia. Some technical cooperation with Africa and Latin America. For this cooperation, international cooperation task, we have 88 projects, ongoing projects, 27 partner countries, and 62 foreign partners institutions. Ambrapa, some time ago, has been working for 49 years, and it is has been working with an open innovation with the productive sector. In this line, we have projects that are private-public partnerships. Although Ambrapa is a public company from the Brazilian government, this project is aimed for innovation with co-funding and partners and the division of intellectual property as well as rights. As I said, I am the head of research of Ambrapa. Ambrapa Digital Agriculture, one of the thematic centers of our company. We are located in Sao Paulo in the University of Campinas, one of the biggest universities and main universities in my country. Our focus is research, development, and innovation in digital agriculture, aiming at sustainability, competitiveness, and adding value in production chains. Our unit work with Agro Digital is developed in three big groups. The first one is working with scientific computing, information engineering, and automation. And we talked about IT projects, smart intelligent systems, data science, data integration, big data, the artificial intelligence, and power recognition. Another group with geographic information. This group is agriculture and environmental modeling and monitoring. We work with monitoring matters of land, climate risk, agriculture and climate change, geospatial technologies, and scenario analysis. And we have another group of bioinformatics and biotechnology. We work with analysis and integration of omics data and the addition of DNA and genotypes and phenotyped databases. I will talk about some projects. I'm trying to be brief, but some projects are some projects of these groups are focused on digital agriculture. The project in the line, and the scientific line, is a project of detection of diseases classifications for crops. We have big data banks and images of the plants, and using image processing techniques and planning, we identified images that are extracted using that is taken using the cell phone, and with that we can see what type of disease may appear in the plant. This classification has 84 diseases and 14 different crops, such as soya, maize, and cotton. Another work in this line is the cattle counting based on UAV images taken by the drones. Nowadays, we count the cattle and the farm. So this is a traditional image, but we have also, with these techniques, we have been able to see cattle that is at the shade under a tree, or there is on a line of electricity, on a power line. And this task, we use neural networks and has an accuracy of 97%. And the search of producers, so the idea is to look for animals that are on a passage that move from one farm to another one, and even animals that come from the farm of one owner to another one. In this group, By using images, we have also cameras that are in some vehicles that drive around the plantation, and using the image techniques, we capture images of grapes. And with that, we can count the grapes and to see the quality of the production. All this, everything is based on an image process. We have this coverage of more than 90%. Another action, which is the Brazilian agro traceability system using the blockchain technology. That was work on a sugarcane production chain for export. Consumers require the information of any phases of the production is available. And this project generated a system that led us to identify all and any information about how the sugar was produced. And the group from the geographic matters, we have a big project titled Agricultural Climate Risk Zoning. And this project is developed with the Ministry of Agriculture in Brazil, as well as with the central bank. And it includes 33 units from Ambrapa and some other partners. And using information, soil information, climate information, and culture information, with all that, we generate maps to inform when is it possible to produce or to plant a given crop. There is a given space. This information is very important because producers need to follow this information from the region. So if there is any issue, insurance can be paid to them. This project brings some benefits because it provides resources. It gives resources, and it is not an expense anymore. It's not an expense anymore. If the farmer plants something that is not for this region, there is an insurance, and it can be paid for more than 40 crops, such as soybean, maize, sugarcane, rice, and others. Frequently, the Brazilian ministry launch updated information about the mapping, and in this group of information as well. In this group, there are two important projects, which is Terra Class, using images from the satellites and the history of the use and coverage of the Amazonas since the 90s, how the coverage of this region has been evolving. And along with this project, Terra Class, we have another project, which is Such VEG, that has the whole history of biomass for South America, and it is based on satellite images. We developed multi-images, and for the whole Brazilian territory, we have a temporary series that represents all the soil aspects. So we have this information in a given area. On the upper part, you can see the graph that represents the biomass index. The first biomass, the index is high. It represents a forest. There's no alteration in the biomass. And there is a deforestation, there is a dropout of the biomass in a period with the graph that represents pastures, and then this pasture is substituted by annual agriculture, and it represents the annual agriculture. So with this series, we were able to organize a historic of information on how the coverage of this region was developed, and this is a quite used tool by the Brazilian government.
Seeks to enable the carbon market, finding sustainable solutions, more sustainable. This project It's about developing protocols for a monitoring project of the carbon and only for
modelagem e simulação e data science desses dados que estão sendo processados até a gente chegar
which are being a validation point. We're in the second phase of this project, and we have been through a year and a half, which was the first moment in which we analyzed the data and how we should create all these scenarios. Then we started with the second phase. And finally, I'm about to finish. Finally, as far as information, we have projects, for instance, to help identify and develop species that are more tolerant to droughts, and also projects using IT tools to pursue better quality, resistant to ticks, and gene measurements to remove or to insert certain characteristics we consider interesting for any given reason. All this information we produce, some of these projects are stored in platforms Ambrapa has it built, and the platform has evolved. Our algorithms are becoming available in platforms to be consumed by partnerships that somehow make this information available, these models and algorithms, with the use of equipment or other apps. We also have a business model program to sell, make available this information, but this depends on the partner, and that could vary. And regarding APIs, it was involved in various innovation programs in which Ambrapa is working with startups, program developing Facebook, also with the government programs that where we foresee working with startups promoting Ambrapa information, and this will be used with Ambrapa technology, Ambrapa models, and these are accelerated and they continue forward. We have some funding, of course, that support this. We're also in the third edition of Tech Start Agro Digital, which is startup accelerators that pursue digital solutions for the agro business. We also have a living lab in Sao Paulo. It's close to some of the Ambrapa research units called AgNest or AGNest. This living lab is a space that is available for startups to experiment, for instance, to evaluate various cultures and in different conditions, for instance, connectivity and communication technologies. And together with this, we have the support to the companies that are working and using this environment. They have a Ambrapa support, and it's very they're close to this area. This is an Ambrapa area. Another action, and talking about digital agriculture and innovation, was the launching of the Agro Innovation Corridor. Recently, it was rolled out, and the idea is to bring together some of the main areas of innovation or states. Campinas is a city where the unit is, and we have two research units here. Piracicaba is also a very strong center for agro research of the University of Sao Paulo. Sao Carlos, where we have two Ambrapa research units. Here we have the instrumentation unit that works with Pecuaria Sudoeste, Southwest Pecuary. We also have another interesting research with the University of Sao Paulo, USP. The idea for this corridor is to bring together or to make available this innovation center and of excellence and agro research. We have over 3 million people with at least 2 research universities, 5 Ambrapa units. We have staff that is directly related to agriculture. We have 2 main innovation centers. This is to strengthen digital agriculture and innovation. And to wrap it up, Ambrapa carried out a startup list that are related to the Brazilian agro business. And this has been a survey of different sectors, funders, with the areas where startups are working. And this is very important input to search startups who want to start other work. And to finish, all this is supported by an innovation ecosystem that Ambrapa built that goes from a data infrastructure. We currently have a very big national park in our city where we not only have equipment for storage, but also for data processing. Besides computing, support, all the technologies, research unit, but also all the other Ambrapa units, each one with their own specialty, service, offer, APIs also, and considering all the different research areas, all the different governance, we have to work with political decisions and business models. That's Ambrapa's idea with this huge organization with innovation. And this is what this slide represents. And thank you. I spoke very fast, and that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado. Very, very interesting presentation, and it's always inspiring to know what Ambrapa is doing, and one of the institutions which contributes largely to innovative ecosystems. As a matter of fact, it's one of the institutions with the greatest investment in science, technology, and innovation for the Latin American culture. Therefore, it's very interesting, very encouraging. And going back to what Carla said, now we want to pose 3 questions to the panelists, starting with Stephen Capes. And Stephen, what do you believe is the contribution that public systems should have, science, technology, and innovation in all this digital transformation process in agriculture? What roles should they have? What role are they called to have, Stephen?
So thank you. It's my pleasure here to be with you. And I'm president of Prosa Norte, which represents Mexico and Canada, as well as the United States. And the way that we've positioned ourselves, and I think it fits for all of North America, is that within agriculture, we have well-developed digital agriculture systems for larger farms working with agribusiness for the larger crops, such as corn and soybeans. But a lot of the crops that don't have the same volume, they're not as popular. We see that publicly funded research needs to help those groups. And one of the examples that we worked on within the USDA is with grapes. They have a serious water issue. And so we developed a system that allowed them to really reduce the amount of water. And you provide it at key times of the growth stages, and they're able to maintain very high production levels with quality grapes. We also, we're looking much like Ambrapa. We're looking at the minimizing input costs, reduce environmental footprint. making sure that these systems are sustainable. We have a lot of research like Ambrapa that supports this type of research. We have genetic improvement programs that's really selecting plants and animals that fit these type of systems. And then we have a really strong plant and animal health program. The other thing that we have is we've developed set up some projects that are specifically designed to work with smaller farmers. Both in Canada and the United States, this is a very critical area. Basically, we don't compete with the industry, whether it's our farmers and ranchers or agribusiness. So we're looking at filling the gaps, and that's why we address some of these smaller commodities as well as the smaller farmers. And we're with the smaller farmers, we're developing systems that are lower cost sensors, lower cost systems for bandwidth in rural areas, and then developing the analytics tools that they need that information is publicly available. And then the next item that we work on is making our research data publicly available. We've always been doing this to a certain extent, but within the United States, we have an executive order that requires us to make our research data publicly available. So within the Agriculture Research Service, we're now centralizing the data access and storage and collecting metadata. And then that's to make the information more available within our own agency, but then also putting it on a public website for others to use. And this will become more important for these smaller farmers, that they have to combine their data, production data, with other data before they'll have enough data that they can start drawing some conclusions that will help them. So this is really critical. And this also opens up the door for using more artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so we're developing those tools for these smaller systems. So I think that there's a big role for publicly funded research to contribute to digital agriculture. And we have much work to do, and I look forward to working with our colleagues. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor Steven.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Capes. Now I give the floor to Prospero Aguilar from IDIAP, Panama. Please go ahead, Prospero. Good afternoon to everyone, and I thank Manuel Otero and to the ICA team for organizing this great topic and event. We have to put great efforts in this with the National Regional Fund on agro technology. There's a great amount of capacities around different lines. What we heard from Ambrapa and what Carla said, but there are differences. How the institutes covered the digital aspects with the strengths they have. For instance, Ambrapa is big, but IDIAP is a small institute, and this is how we replicate in the region. Central America has its own capacities. But the issue is the same, the digital gaps. And I'm sure it's been said, I couldn't be here yesterday, but I'm sure it's been said, the issue with access to internet, the issue with digital skills to use these systems in internet. Not all producers have the same skills. Not all the researchers have the same skills to transfer knowledge and information. So this gap, digital gap, is a common issue. Some with more connectivity, some with less. Some with populations that use the technology, youth, rurality. This is a gap within the gap and the city. So I think the issues are the same. We share the same issues, but the role of INEAS should be, as well stated by Ambrapa colleague, it should be a catalyzer in the ecosystem generation, ecosystems of innovation. Obviously, not being oblivious to their legal mission of generating knowledge to validate and to information for producers. That's their legal role, and they shouldn't unattend that, but they can uh, generate an ecosystem that in Panama, in any case, we do not have it as developed. So it becomes necessary for the public to partner with private to affect more producers. Someone just said that there was a number close to 20% or 40% of the producers affected by the extension, but some countries have less, 5% who come and then adopting it is a different story. So the way I see the role of INEA is to promote, is to add to those ecosystems, to generate these ecosystems, supporting legally, attracting, innovating solutions to the system. For instance, AGROS spoke about digital identity, and I really like that because this can allow you to have that capacity or visibility, or how can I say it, or to certify the producer or producer's qualifications and generate a loan. If you're trained in a course, for instance, ICA or IDB gives you a certificate that is valid for your curricular life. Because something similar could be done with farmers for them to access loans, for instance, soft loans, technical assistance, bonds, so on and so forth. And something else Agroconsultas said was define what is technical assistance and what policies and how to legitimize that technical assistance. That can also be a role of the INEAS to give legitimacy for that technical assistance, uh, private or digital, to have support, institutional support from the INEAS. So I see the role of research institutes and agro innovation in America to support and to follow, to generate policies to create digital ecosystems in the broad sense, from apps, from technical assistance with chatbots, AI, all the things that were mentioned by Carla, uh, IoT or Internet of Things, understanding all these aspects in a very broad sense, because there's something institutes don't do. There's capacities we don't have. So I'll leave it there to promote, foster, and to get the lines excited to get more involved with the startups for us to solve the most amount of issues producers can have. We spoke about education, innovation, research. Panama is 0.5% and one of the lowest in the region. There was a policy to increase that to 1% GDP, but then pandemic came and all the efforts had to be redirected to other urgent things, to health, etc. However, the Innovation and Research Institutes in the agro sector did not stop. It continued solving the issues. And I'll just leave it there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Prospero Aguirre, very well aligned with the answer or with the presentation of the Ambrapa representative. And now with the I dare to make a summary to then pose another question. Based on the same question, Jose Bonica, from your personal standpoint in Uruguay, same question, what role should public systems should have on science, technology, and innovation in all this digital transformation process in agriculture? Good afternoon. It's great to be in contact with you, and thank you for the invitation. Our role, without a doubt, is very important. It's a huge role, and for a very simple reason, if we don't do it, we'll be left out of the market. Currently, all the population communicates increasingly with these modern ways, and if we don't use these, to link the researchers between them, in other words, national with foreigners. How, if we don't do this, we're going to be left out of the market with our clients, and we have to act in this regard. There's no two opinions. That's what I understand. And from Uruguay, we have some in this race. We we don't all take off from the same position. Some have some comparative advantages compared to others. And first, I refer to connectivity, which is not the same in our countries, although we all have to make efforts in this regard. And also from Uruguay, I want to share that since 2007, in public schools, all the students receive a tablet or have received a tablet for their education. And this has generated training, although with cell phones, the information comes very easy. But in Uruguay, students have had training. Therefore, in the labor force, we currently have people who are qualified to use these tools, and we have to satisfy that demand. So from Procisur, Socinias del Sur, but also from Uruguay, we're working on this for some time with different names, but we have been working in terms of providing new tools in production, animal production, as well as vegetable production, the better use of water, offer and demand of water, also in trade, because trade is also important. And of course, training adults and youth, they have different capacities to accept these technologies, and that must be clear. And finally, good news in Uruguay, I'm sure in other countries also, the pandemic, we always talk about its negative effects. Well, as far as communication or extension or links with producers, and there has been good experience compared to the normal dissemination forums where the farmers would come to institutions to be updated on new technologies. Since they couldn't do it in person via streaming, we started using these technologies. We had to develop these capacities. We didn't have these, but very quickly these were adapted. And as we increased or as we improved, more people attended these the trainings, with the advantage that these workshops are there, and someone who couldn't go to that or either workshop or training, and people didn't have to spend any resources in their commute and their travel, and they were able to ask and get answers. So we see a number of persons who participate in these training in Uruguay has increased significantly. And this is one of the few, and luckily we have good experiences from the pandemic. That's our comment so far. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jose Bonica. I would like to highlight a few things, and I don't want to give the summary and name. It's very pretentious to do that, but I want to highlight some things that came from the discussion I think are quite interesting. And you said it yourselves. Public systems should be focused in solving needs and take advantage of opportunities, especially of small agriculture. That's a role of public systems on research, innovation, and technology. They should be focused in generation and making available data for farmers to make better decisions, evidence-based decisions. I think that's core. They should be focused in building or the skills for the use of digital solutions applied to agriculture. And you mentioned that, which were those skills that were required. And finally, they should be catalyzers in generating innovation ecosystems by encouraging public-private partnerships, to training, providing the proper conditions for these ecosystems to develop and mature. I think those 4 points were quite interesting. And taking away some things from Carla's presentation, I would title this, how should these digital developments, how should they happen? And Carla mentioned something interesting. These digital developments are not just one topic. There's a technological convergence and everything Carla presented. We saw developments that were mathematicians, IT. There's a technological convergence, symbiosis of all these different sciences and technologies. And the second thing, they're multi-purpose. They have a main purpose to increase yield, increase profits, increase sustainability, but in most cases, they're multi-objective. They try to achieve several objectives at once. They're focused on taking advantage of potentials. These are developments that have practical applicability and they're thought out in practical applicability, and they have broad participation of final user, end user, and all the development and the pilots and scaling up, where technology would be developed in one place and created in one place and developed somewhere else. Those paradigms are done away with. And I will open in case any of the panelists who wants to share a final comment. How much of this in the region we are doing? How much are we missing? What are we missing is the main question. What should we be working on as a region to actually seize the opportunities we have? And we from bioeconomy always say this. We have a comparative advantage in this, which is that we have a biological wealth no other region in the world has. And with this new frontier of science, technology, and innovation allows us to take advantage of this in a more efficient and sustainable way. So from all these things you mentioned that are being done, and what's the pending agenda? What's before us? What are we missing? In case someone wants to share a very final comment, short comment. So we open the floor. There it is. Please go ahead, Jose. If you allow me, I want to highlight teamwork. It's good to know and to share our experiences, our success, and our fails. In Uruguay, it's a small country. I know it's easy to say, but I think it's valid for everyone. We always have something to learn from others, but we always also have something to share with others. And I think this is something important in future work, which is not something small. We have to be at the speed of this changing world, and it will change even more. So I believe that working alone, it could be an error. So we have to help each other, and share is a good thing. It's simply that. Thank you, Jose. Yes, actually, that's one of our principles in ICA. Thank you. Uh, so I want to align with Jose's thought. We have a diagnosis, we have the studies, we have the arguments, we have the papers, multiple meetings, gatherings. We have the diagnosis. What we have to do now is get closer, as Jose said, get closer, cooperate, meet. It was never more important than now because of the pandemic and the different events. So it's a part of a humanity. So I want to highlight with Jose, I want to make echo cooperation, and more cooperation. Thank you, Prospero. Carla, any final comment? Do you want to add something?
A Ambrapa, né, como eu comentei, é uma grande empresa. Hoje a gente, coincidentemente, ontem eu estava numa reunião.
Yes, it's a company that has teams and works with institutions in Latin America, and in that sense of encouraging these partnerships. An important point is that in the innovation Ambrapa is working with, it's not only with large companies. We have projects that we have developed, NGOs and small companies where Ambrapa contributes with a good amount of resources to bring that innovation to these companies. Sometimes they have good ideas, but these ideas or these startups, and sometimes a small company that still does not have the capital and has good ideas, well, Ambrapa comes in a partnership as a mentor. As I said, we are over 2,000 researchers besides other colleagues who can help those institutions to evaluate to see if they're interesting. So my final comment is what the colleague said is union. We have to assume the connectivity. That's an issue also in Brazil. Sao Paulo state, which is the most prosperous state in the country. We know that when we go to other regions, there's issues with the connectivity, but we need to get together. We need to unite. Everyone has knowledge you can share with others, either issues that are shared and working together to find a solution or an experience we don't have here in Brazil. So I think it's only united and with partnerships that we can make things happen. And Embrapa, as I said, is pursuing that.
So we work in partnership with other institutions, other research units, as well as other countries. This partnership is always welcome. This is my final message. Thank you. We had important guests, luxurious guests. So we are completely convinced that the public systems in science, technology, and innovation, as Prospero said, are catalyzers of these transformation processes, particularly with the small farming. We are also convinced that the challenges and opportunities are shared. So the only solution is working together. Thank you again, Jose, Prospero, Carla, and Stephen, who had to go. So we are really grateful with your participation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Recording stopped.